Later.
Oh.
Yeah. Oops.
I put her back in waiting room. Okay. Yep. So, good morning. Okay, I search for you on Facebook. Okay, let me look for Talentvis. No, I don't see your live yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm setting.
Hey. Okay, good morning, everybody. Rise and shine. Haha. Okay. I'm just wondering if I want to share. If I want to share some music, would I be kind of like taking over your share in that sense?
I think you can put some music before the group starts.
Yeah, I want to, but
fine.
but I'm the share screen, because it's under the share options. So because Daryl is sharing, right? I cannot share. Like even if it's just because under there's basic, which is to share the screen and the audio. But then if I just want to share audio, it's also under share, but under the advanced.
Okay, going live.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Okay, I'll share to my Facebook also now.
Yes, okay. So now we just started streaming on Facebook. Okay, so it started on Talentvis Facebook. So I'm going to share it with my own Facebook too. Okay, let me find. Okay. So if you see us on Facebook, feel free to join us directly on the link. Okay. Okay, oh yes, I see it. So today's topic is on how to recession proof your career. Okay, I'm going to start a watch party. Okay, tell people to join us in the Zoom room directly. Okay, and I'll start my watch party. Yes, okay. So we are going live. Okay, so we will be starting at about 10 or 10:05, giving some people about 5 minutes. Yes, we see some people joining us already. Hey, shall we start letting them in?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome in. Hi, good morning. Yes. So if you're joining us today, we are currently live on Facebook as well. So if you're seeing us from Facebook, do feel free to click on the link directly and join us in the Zoom room. Okay, so just a bit of housekeeping rules. Hey, if you have any questions, please feel free to, type it in the chat. Hey, or you can also raise your hand and then we'll unmute you and you can ask your questions. Okay, but all questions will only be answered at the end of the session. Okay, if you have anything, you can always feel free to send a private message to myself. So I will be moderating the chat. Okay. Yep, so we're just going to wait for a few minutes. Okay. So meanwhile, please feel free to, say hi in the chats. Tell us where you're from, what you're looking forward to. Yes. Okay, we still have a few minutes. So if you want to go grab your morning coffee, your morning tea, milk for my case, you can still have some time to do so. So for those who are joining us for the first time today, this is actually our 4th installment of the Talentvis Webinar Career Advisory Series. So if you have not seen our previous ones, you can actually go to the Talentvis website. There's an events page. So all our previous webinars are also uploaded there. So you can check out, the previous sessions about, Jasmine's like mindset and adaptability. Oh, that one will be up soon. Then we also have Ethan's job searching strategy. And another one from Ivan as well. And there's also a lot of other webinars there that Talentvis has hosted. So, do feel free to check it out there. Hey, and today we will talk about future-proof your career. Hey, it's 10 currently, but we'll give a few minutes for, people to settle in and for a few more people to join us, whether from Facebook. Okay. But remember, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you, and then you can ask your questions. Okay. So yeah, feel free to type in the chat, like let's say, what are you guys looking forward to? Where are you from? I think today we have Daryl. Daryl is from Talentvis, Indonesia. So he's currently based in Jakarta, but he was actually Malaysian. I mean, he's still Malaysian. So he has experience in both Malaysia and Indonesia. And you can, feel free to ask him about his experiences. So he previously used to work in the banking and finance sector previously with PwC, and now he's helping to search. So he's now focusing on the FSI sector. So if you're looking for, jobs in the financial services, insurance, fintech, so please feel free to, drop him an email after the session. Okay. So, okay. We'll start in about, maybe at about 10:05. I still see some people who are joining us. Hey, so once again, welcome. If you're joining us, on this 4th installment of the Talentvis Webinar Career Advisory Series, we have had past 3 sessions, which you can feel free to check out on the Talentvis events page. They've all been uploaded, and you can, see some of the other webinars that have been hosted by Talentvis as well. So welcome. Feel free to join us in the Zoom room if you are seeing this on Facebook, so that, in the Zoom room, you could type your questions in the chat. All questions will be answered after the session. So there's 2 ways you can ask questions. One, type it directly in the chat. Second, you can raise your hand, and once we unmute you, you can ask your question as well. Okay? So about all questions, at the end of the chat. Hey, so as we are seeing people come in, I'll just share a bit of background. So this webinar series is brought to you by Talentvis and K-On Events. So Talentvis is a recruitment and executive search firm with over 20 years of experience, and they have offices in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Okay, and as for K-On Events, we help clients to transform physical events into virtual and hybrid events. And as for today's speaker, today we have Daryl Lim from Talentvis Indonesia. He's a team lead, and he focuses on the FSI sector. So financial services, insurance, fintech. If you are looking out for something, feel free to drop him a line. Okay, and he has over 3 years of experience in recruitment, and today he's here to share with us how to future-proof your career. Hey, Ben, are you there? Are you good to start? Sorry, Daryl. Daryl,
Yes.
are you there?
Yes, thank you, Eunice.
Okay, so over to you. And please feel free to share with us on how to future-proof your career.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So, as Eunice has mentioned, today I will be talking a bit about how to future-proof your career. All right. So, let's just start it off. So, just a brief overview. We're going to be talking a bit about the current outlook, from COVID, and action plan for us. skill sets that we can build, some recession-proof industries, and lastly, the conclusion. So, just a bit about the COVID impact. Right now, this is a projection of the impact from the coronavirus, right? So, for Asia, so Vietnam is going to be highly most affected due to its dependence on Chinese supply chains, Hong Kong and Singapore as well. So a lot of this, they've been affected a bit because of the dependence on Chinese inputs for the manufacturing of the finished goods. And a bit about Indonesia and unemployment rate right now. It has increased slightly ever since February 2020 to about 6.88 million, right? Also, they foresee that the economy could witness a 3.9% contraction if it's hit by a second wave, right? On a worst case projection. Yeah. So what do we do about this then, right? What can we do as employees, as candidates for ourselves? We can, of course, build up our skill sets, stand out, be prepared, and at the last case, maybe consider some recession-proof jobs. So let me speak a bit about what I mean by building up your skill sets. So the first thing would be transferable skills, right? So transferable skills means skills that you will bring along, you will bring along throughout any job or any industry that you move out from. Yeah, all these that transitions. So to know about that, you should try and create a list for yourself about these kind of transferable skills that will apply to any job that you go to. For example, like your communication skills, all these are always important regardless of what job you go into, right? So these are transferable. And then the next thing will be soft skills. So they say that 15% of your professional success is mostly related to your technical proficiency and your knowledge, right? So where does that leave the rest, the other 85%? So they say actually the other 85 is highly influenced by your soft skills. Because in most jobs, your co-workers will probably have similar knowledge and experience and technical skill sets, right? For example, if you are a web developer, you have React.js knowledge, then your other peers will probably have around the same kind of skill sets as well. It's a price of entry. So how do you stand out? How do you progress through your career or move up the corporate ladder? A lot of it depends on soft skills, right? How you differentiate yourself. So it can be broken down to three main things in terms of soft skills, which is authority, warmth, and energy. This is how you connect to people. So let's start first with authority. So what I think most of us understand what authority means, right? When you see it, when you hear it, when you see somebody successful speaking with that kind of confidence, that kind of sense of purpose, you want to listen, right? So when you present with authority, you feel it internally and you recognize it externally. So how you can practice this is by your posture, your attire, what you wear when you go to interviews, when you speak to people, speak to clients, anyone, making eye contact, all these kind of things embody authority. And the next one would be warmth, right? Warmth is also a very important factor because showing your empathy, being attentive, right? Because just being authoritative without creating a connection would not allow people to build trust. So you want people to trust you, you want people to listen to you, right? It strengthens you when you are vulnerable, when you have humility, right? When you're humble, people would tend to trust you more. They want to listen to you more. So how you can practice this is by asking yourself, right now at this point, do your colleagues trust you, right? Do they feel acknowledged when you interact with them? And also, do you welcome feedback? So these are some of the questions you can ask yourself, whether you are already exhibiting warmth. The third one is energy. So the more energy you have, right, the more you can influence people, educate, or engage. Because when you have authority, you earn people's respect. warmth earns people's trust, but energy is what makes people follow you, right? Your enthusiasm, your commitment, believing in the message that you send out. For example, if you're representing your company for whatever service that you are selling or providing, you need to first truly believe in it, right? You need to believe in the message that you want to send out, and then people trust in what you're saying, and others will also trust. Yeah, so always be present, be authentic, and fully engaged. So yeah, so these are the 3 pillars that are very important when it comes to soft skills. Always focus on these 3, and your soft skills will basically be great, right? You'll be able to engage with people. So next is this, standing out, right? How else do you want to future-proof yourself is by always standing out. So this can come from professional development, courses, classes, extra certifications, right? Other than that is you want to appear to be indispensable. So what that means is that you want to be in the top 10%. You don't want to be in the bottom 10% where you're worried about if there are any layoffs, you'll be in the bottom 10. And how to prevent yourself from being there is by doing the extra things, right? This is something that anyone can do. You don't have to be a genius for it. Be effective in your work, get things done early, under budget, right? Attitude. So aside from your certifications and development, one very key point that all of us can strive to improve on is attitude, right? In these kind of scenarios, how do you differentiate yourselves? You volunteer for additional tasks. Be very proactive. So proactive is a word that people tend to throw around, but I think it's very important. So what differentiates from you and another of your peer who is, is that the proactiveness. So you take ownership of your role, your responsibility, right? You suggest new ways to increase revenue, even if it's beyond your job scope, but you go the extra mile, you do more, right? You assist others without expecting anything in return. So all these will, in the end, build up, right? It will help you stand out with your peers, your managers, your bosses. They will see like, oh, wow, this person is putting in the extra effort. He really, he's really passionate about what he's doing and being a team player, right? Building good relationships, because at the end of the day, work, personal life, a lot of it is relationship building, right? Whether it's within your own colleagues or whether it's with your clients, relationships are one of the most important factors. So sometimes at the end of the day, right, despite everything, we should always still be prepared, right? Always have an umbrella for rainy days. So in the event that things don't go well, some unfortunate things happen, at least we are prepared for it. So these are a few things that we can do to be prepared. First thing is updating your resume, right? Like it or not, resumes are such an important thing nowadays when it comes to job hunting or job seeking. Because without the connections or anything, a lot of the times, what people know about you or can see about you in terms of your career development is your resume, right? This small piece of paper where it has your list of experiences and everything. And if you don't do it well, then people may misinterpret that. You may be the best bank manager out there, but if your resume doesn't convey that much, if you have so much accomplishments but you don't put it in, then how are people to know that, right? And sometimes if you're lucky, they give you a chance, they call you up and they find that out about you, then that's good. But a lot of times they may skip the call just because your resume did not attract them enough. So always keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it to the dot, right? The details. Details also matter a lot. Even slight things like your grammar, your alignment, because during your resume, there's no deadline, right? So take time to craft it and to make it the best version, because it's a representation of yourself. Next one is your networking game. As I mentioned, connections are important, relationships. Henceforth, networking is also very important, right? nowadays it's so easy to network on LinkedIn. You don't even have to really know the people yet, right? But people nowadays, they are open to accept new connections. That's the whole point of LinkedIn, right? So let's say I give you a more practical example. Let's say there's a company that you want to go into, let's say like Astra, right? So you want to work for this company, but at the same time, you don't really have the connections to get in yet. And maybe your resumes, your applications have not been getting any results. So what do you do? What can you do? You can actually go to LinkedIn. You can look for the right HR managers or hiring managers, connect with them, try to speak with them first, right? Don't go in asking for a job immediately. Go in, try to build a little connection first. Ask them how is it going there, and then introduce yourself. And then from there, new doors might open. So that's about networking. It's also tactful, right? How do you do it? Because it's important that you don't go in and just start asking for things. Because if you have nothing to offer at the first place, then people normally get turned off when you just go in asking. So the third thing would be approaching recruitment consultants. So people like us, right? Speak to us at Talentvis whenever you want to get any career advice or to see what job openings we have right now, or anything in particular, right? We don't charge for anything, we don't bite as well. So you can always come to us, pass us your resume. Even if we have nothing for you right now, we are able to share or connect you with others that might have, or maybe in the future down the line, we would probably have opportunities that suit your skill sets. So I think it's always good to build connection with your fellow headhunters. All right, so next I'll be talking a bit about some common characteristics of recession-proof jobs, right? So this is in case you are considering or thinking that, hey, what are some of the industries out there that are maybe recession-proof and that you may consider moving into? So before I go into the industries, I'll talk a bit about the characteristics. First thing is essential. An industry that is essential is something that is very important and necessary regardless of the economy or the situation that we're in. So for example, doctors, nurses, your public utilities, without these things, society would basically fail, right? We cannot actually survive the country as a whole without these public necessities. Next thing is being urgent. So an example of something urgent is like your food groceries, your medicine, your sundries. I think a lot of us went through this during the start of COVID, right? We heard about the toilet rolls being out of stock and a lot of people stocking up on food, all these essential necessities. So these are urgent because without these, we can't really go on. It's for our survival needs, basically. So that's why supermarkets and all these, they consumer goods, these things would generally not be affected that much because people would still need it. The last thing would be being specialized. So a lot of characteristics for recession resistant jobs are normally specialized training or experience. Surgeons, all these kind of things, these things which are more specialized, which require certifications, these are not so easily replaceable. And therefore more recession proof. Right. So some of the recession proof industries, right? The first one will be your medical professional. So as I mentioned just now, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, regardless of the economy or what situation we're in, even back to hundreds of thousands of years ago, people still get sick. People still need medical attention. That's why it's recession proof. Next one will be your financial services, right? Money movement is also important, which is why even during this COVID and things, COVID recently, most accountants, auditors, they are still not out of a job because it's not so easily replaceable, right? because companies, like it or not, still have to review their books, even if they are going bankrupt or they are reviewing their numbers, they are doing restructuring. The financial services are still necessary. Your banks, your audit firms. Yes. Education is also another one, right? So being a teacher, the job of a teacher right now at the moment is also still quite safeguarded, right? Especially for public schools and all this. Yes. And also considering a job in education can sometimes be also flexible, right? In terms of location, delivery style. So that's one of the reasons why education is still something quite recession proof, because governments normally will focus to make sure that our education is not interrupted, because they build our future generations. Public utility services. Another thing that is not easily affected is because electric, water, sewage, all these are critical, right, in maintaining our daily lives, our daily order. Without electric, without water, we can't really live comfortably, right? And that's why the consultancies that serve these utilities, they tend to share these benefits as well. So if you have a company or you're working in a company related to this field, most likely it's quite recession proof. And the last one is, of course, law enforcement. So your police officers, the army, all this, they normally remain intact as well, because they are part of keeping society in check, right? Making sure we're safe, and the stability of the country lies a lot on law enforcement. And that's why they tend to be recession proof as well. So coming back, in terms of financial services, I think I've mentioned that we are one of the specialists there. So this is something that you may want to consider moving into, right? And if you want to get some information on it, feel free to speak to me or any of our consultants. So this is just a brief chart on some of the effects of COVID. So since January 2020, some information from LinkedIn has shown that education has received about 32% increase in views per job, right? So what this means is that more people have been viewing jobs related to your education sector, followed by networking, fitness, entertainment, and so forth, legal, IT. So IT is also another thing that recently has received a lot of demand in job demand, because you realize that it can be done remotely, right? You can work remotely, and companies are still onboarding, right? Yeah, and a lot of interviews have been being done virtually. So yeah, these are just some for you to look into and maybe consider. So in conclusion, right, I would say that what you should always remember is this: whether we'll be able to survive in this new normal, because things will definitely change. The business world will change. I'm sure a lot of you working in your companies, you've seen a lot of restructuring, a lot of things that are being changed also due to this impact, right? So that answer will depend whether we can survive or not, is depending on whether you can adapt, right? Whether you can adapt, whether you can embrace change and be resilient. I think out of everything, this is the most important thing, because the ones who don't change and don't want to adapt are the ones who normally will get left behind, right? So always be open to change and being resilient. That means never giving up. So I know sometimes job searching and job hunting can be something very, very tiring, right? Very emotionally draining. You can apply for 100 jobs and maybe only get 5 interviews, and out of the 5, maybe 4 of them you fall through or whatnot. Basically, it's a very tiring, emotionally draining process. But it's okay. I mean, eventually, if you don't give up, something will come along the way. And maybe also go back to the things which I mentioned previously on preparing yourself, right? Getting the right resumes, equipping the skill sets. All these are things that we can all do regardless of what we are. It doesn't take a genius. It's not rocket science. It's just being, having a good attitude and doing extra, working harder, standing out. Yeah, all these things are something that we can work on, right? It's not something that you have to be born with. So I'm gonna end with a very simple quote. I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to reach my destination. So what that means is that the direction of the wind, rain, all these are things that we cannot change, right? We can't do anything about it. And there's no point for us getting angry at the rain, getting angry at God or whatever for situations that are beyond our control. Instead, we should always focus on things that are within our control, things that we can improve on, right? Instead of wishing others to change, why don't we change ourselves first? Why don't we focus on how do we represent ourselves better and how do we treat people with more kindness, with more openness? And in turn, that normally allows people to also treat us well, right? And normally more doors, more opportunities will open when we do that. So focus on the things that you can change instead of the things that you can't. With that said, thank you so much for listening. So just a brief overview, we are right now in 5 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So if any of you are ever having any difficulties or you're curious about career change or any job opportunities within any of these countries, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to us, email me, send me a resume, drop me any questions, anything that you have. Right. Thank you. Eunice, over to you.
Thanks so much, Daryl, for your sharing. Indeed, when you were sharing your quote, it brought to my mind this other quote that was saying that, tough times don't last, but tough people do. So indeed, we need to make ourselves tough and resilient as well in these times, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, now is the time where you can actually start asking your questions. So you can either feel free to, type it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you and you can ask your questions as well. So there is a question here. It's okay. The question is, he's actually asking you whether your recruitment work or recruitment industry, is it recession proof?
Oh, right. Interesting. Very interesting question, actually. So, to put it in a way, yes and no at the same time, right? Yes, in the sense that there are still companies, a lot of companies still hiring, right? Especially the essential ones. So, no at the same time is because our industry, we are highly dependent upon companies as well, right? So our client base. So one good example is also, it would not have been recession proof if we did not embrace change, if we did everything the same, right? If we only maintain the clients that we already have. For example, if the clients that we had are in the industries that, like, for example, the travel industry, we all know that they were highly impacted, right? So, and let's say we also have a lot of clients within the travel industry. If we stuck to that, then I think we would have also sunk down together with them. So instead, we focused on the other clients, the ones who were under the essential space, or the others that embrace the change and restructure and continue their hiring. Because the smart employers, the smart companies will know that right now is actually one of the best times to hire, right? Because there are a lot of quality candidates out there that were unfortunately maybe laid off due to due to their company's financial conditions and all this, but not because of their capabilities. And that's why a lot of the big ones, the market leaders, they are actually still hiring. And for us, we are self-aware, right? We're self-aware of the market change, and we ship accordingly as well. And we latch on to that and we ride the train instead of so in a way, yes and no. Definitely
Okay.
we will be affected as well if we do not make any changes.
I'm just, having you hear that, it makes me curious. Can you share a bit more of your experience so far of what you see, of job candidates and also of employers since COVID has hit?
So job employers, and could you repeat that, Eunice?
As in, so far, in the past few months that COVID has hit,
Hmm.
how have you seen the changes in, candidates and also in employers?
Right. So again, because we meet a lot of different people every day, right? And we have such a variety of clients and candidates. They normally fall into two pools, right? There are the candidates who come to us saying that they've been laid off, they're desperate for a job, right? And then we will obviously do our best to help them. We'll listen to them and try to understand their situation. So the main takeaway for the candidate side is that what I took is a lot of times when we are put in a situation where it's unexpected, where they've been laid off and they've been applying and still they've been getting nothing. A lot of times it's because of the morale, right? You get emotionally drained, and when that happens, it kind of leads to a downward spiral, because you get one rejection and another, and somehow you start doubting yourself, right? You start doubting yourself, and eventually you start thinking that, what if I wouldn't be able to find another job in another year or so, or they might just go for something much lower than what they expected, these kind of things. So in these kind of situations, we normally tell them, okay, first you need to maybe make a list first, right? So we will review on maybe their skills, how they interview, how they represent themselves, and sometimes even if they have all the right skill sets, why is it that they are still not getting the job that they want, right? So a lot of times they might think that, oh, the company is just interviewing me for for fun. The HR is just trying to look for resumes there. So that's what they tell themselves. But a lot of times I tell them, I say, sometimes yes, that might be true, but most of the time it's not that, right? Companies are still definitely hiring, right? So first thing is your mindset, right? I think what Jasmine spoke about previously in the previous webinar, that's very important. Having the correct mindset, because if you are already negative on yourself, then on the outside, on the outwards, you will also present negatively, right? You would not be confident because you've already lost your confidence. So take some time, right? Maybe take a week to stop with the job hunting, or a few days, right? Depending, and just rejuvenate your mind, refresh yourself, tell yourself that you are someone worthy, right? You definitely deserve it. You are good, right? And then list it down and basically prepare yourself mentally and work on your soft skills, right? Because interviews, resumes, all these depend very highly on soft skills, right? Soft skills apart from the technical knowledge. Because when you speak during the interview, what you say determines what your interviewer would, what you say determines what your interviewer will listen to. So what you say about yourself, if you don't get to tell the full story, then they might only capture 30% of your capabilities just because you did not convey it correctly. Yes, so definitely work on the communication part. Interviewing skills is something that everyone can hone, right? Everyone can improve on. So yeah, work on the things you can improve on.
Okay, so that's for the candidate side. How about for employers? What are some of the changes? Because, since the start of COVID, we've heard a lot of people freeze hiring, freeze hiring. So,
Correct.
what are some of those that are, who are still actively hiring?
So we did have a few clients also telling us that they are freezing their hiring because of their revenue, right? So cash flow, revenue, all these are very real things that we definitely understand also. But also another thing is we noticed that the clients that are still hiring, right? What sets them apart is their ability to restructure and refocus. So they definitely also would have received an impact, due to this COVID. That I think most companies would definitely be affected, right? Like it or not, yeah. Because a lot of us are interconnected. When one sector goes down, it's like a domino effect. But what keeps them hiring is the looking to the future, because we know that recessions, pandemics, all this, they are here right now, right? But they won't be here to stay, right? Eventually, we will get back to the normal, right? Because the governments of the world are doing their best, and we can see cases slowly improving, and eventually it will go down. So these companies, they are more forward thinking. They are not looking at this year, December, the next 3 months. They're looking at the next 2 years, the next 3 years, the next 5, the next 10 years, right? They know that eventually they will get back up. They have set their target. They know where they want to move towards to, and they know that one of the best times to hire quality candidates is actually right now, right? Yeah. So I think that's why they are still proceeding with it and managing their own cash flows, because one way for revenue and all this to come back up is also because if you don't have the right amount of employees, the right staff or the good ones, then I mean eventually you'll be stuck there, right? Because what makes a company? The employees, right? So invest in the employees, and eventually the investments will come back 5 to 10-fold back to the company, revenue and all this. So I think that's one of the things that we've seen in the companies that have embraced this and done something about it. So a lot of ways also, right? Maybe traditionally a lot of things have not been done digitally, or working from home, having having cold calls with your clients and all this. So a lot of these new companies, they have embraced that kind of change, and they realize that productivity can still go up even though we change the way we do things. So yeah, I think that's one of the key factors, being able to change in the right direction.
Agree very much so, Daryl. Yeah, especially like for example, even K1 events, we help clients who used to do physical events and now change them into virtual and hybrid events because
Correct.
of COVID. We're all
If
being
you
forced
didn't change
digital.
if you didn't change to digital, then you'd still be waiting for physical events for, I mean, maybe the next year, right? And just, oh, why is no one doing any physical events? Why are we not allowed to, right? But yeah, there's no point moving around. Yeah, so it's great also. I think we've been enjoying this partnership also with K-On events.
Yes. So, I mean, COVID has definitely been a big push towards digital transformation. You know how digital transformation was always the buzzword for the past few
Correct.
years, but it was just, okay, let's invest a bit in IT. But now everybody is really, okay, you are really forced to work from home.
Yeah.
And that's why we're also having this session online over Zoom, logging in. And it's a way of kind of like keeping in touch and still being able to have that discussion of ideas and getting to know what's out there in the market as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So, okay, if there's any, we have time for perhaps one last question. So if there's anybody who would like to ask, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can ask your question, or you can type it in the Zoom chat directly. Anybody? Any last questions? If not, of course, alternatively, there's always Daryl's
Feel free to
email.
email me, right?
Yes.
In case you don't want to ask right now, or yeah.
Yeah, you can always message him, Daryl Lim at talentvis.com. Alternatively, you can also write in to corporate@talentvis.com if you'd like to reach out to some of the consultants in other countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, because Daryl himself is currently based in Indonesia. Okay, so I see that we don't seem to have much questions. So yeah, you guys can feel free to email Daryl. So with that, perhaps, thank you everybody for joining, and we've come to the end of our session. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much, Daryl, for sharing with us your insights on how to recession-proof your career. Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you, Eunice. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.